Mom, I think it's time we talked about putting you somewhere safer. Those were the words I heard my daughter say. She stood in my kitchen, the kitchen I'd cooked 10,000 meals in, the kitchen where I'd taught her to make her first grilled cheese, where we'd celebrated every birthday, every holiday, every triumph. 37 years I'd owned this house. 3 months since Claire had moved back in to help me recover. She said those words gently, the way you'd tell a child their goldfish died. Soft, careful, practiced. My son-in-law Derek nodded from the doorway, his therapist face arranged in professional concern. That mask he wore like a second skin. I'd seen him use it on his patients. Now he was using it on me. I was 62 years old, and my daughter wanted to put me in a home. I gripped the counter, felt the familiar flutter in my left hand, the tremor that had started the night of my stroke, or what everyone called my stroke. That night in April, when I'd woken up dizzy, confused, my words slurring like I'd had too much wine. My left side, weak, unresponsive, a stranger's body that wouldn't obey. Claire had found me on the bathroom floor, called the ambulance, rode with me to the hospital, held my hand while doctors ran their tests. She'd been such a devoted daughter, that terrible night. I should have wondered about that sooner. But let me back up. Understanding how I ended up here requires knowing who Claire was, who she was before she became my caretaker, before she became my jailer. My daughter had always been intense, the kind of child who couldn't just lose at Monopoly. She had to flip the board, scatter the pieces, storm off and slam her bedroom door. At 8, she'd screamed for 3 hours straight because her best friend got the same birthday dress. At 12, she'd keyed a boy's bicycle. He'd picked another girl for the school dance. At 16, she'd nearly been expelled for starting a rumor that destroyed a teacher's marriage, the teacher who'd given her a B-. I'd made excuses for all of it. Passionate, I called her. Strong-willed. A girl who knew what she wanted. I never called it what it was. Eperon. A warning. A daughter who believed the world owed her everything and would punish anyone who disagreed. She'd married Derek right out of college, a psychology student who seemed calm enough to balance her. Water to her fire, I'd thought. I was wrong about that, too. He wasn't water. He was gasoline pretending to be calm. They'd done fine for themselves. Derek had his practice. Claire had her yoga studio. They lived in a nice neighborhood across town. 2 cars, a boat they never used, vacations to places they could post about online. Then last March, Derek's practice hit trouble. Claire was vague when she called. Insurance issues, she said. Billing problems. Her voice was tight, the way it got when she was scared. Their visits became more frequent, twice a week, then 3 times. Claire started asking questions about my finances, how I was managing since Dad died, whether I'd thought about simplifying things. You're all alone in this big house, Mom. Aren't you lonely? I wasn't lonely. I had my book club, Margaret, Susan, Donna, Beth. 40 years of friendship between us. Wine on Thursdays. Arguments about whether literary fiction was pretentious. Laughter that filled my living room. I had my garden. 3 dozen rose bushes. Tomatoes that the neighbors begged for. Sunflowers tall enough to block the fence. I had my Tuesday morning coffee group. The women from the neighborhood. We'd raised our children together. Buried our husbands together. We understood each other in ways words couldn't capture. I was living the life your generation writes articles about. Active seniors. Aging in place. All that. I'd even started dating again. Tom, a retired engineer I'd met at the library. He'd been reaching for the same biography. Our hands had touched on the spine. We'd both laughed. 2 months later, we were having dinner twice a week. Claire absolutely hated him. Tom seems nice, I'd tell her. Testing, hoping for approval I shouldn't have needed. He seems interested in your money. she'd snap back. Every time. Looking back now, the irony is unbearable. My daughter accusing someone of being after my money, while she was measuring my house for a sale sign? Then came the night, May 2nd. I remember because it was the day after my birthday, 62. I'd just gotten home from dinner with Tom. We'd gone to Marcello's, the Italian place with the brick walls and soft lighting. I'd had chicken marsala, 1.5 glasses of wine. Exactly. I remember counting. Tom had given me a bracelet, silver, with small blue stones. To match your eyes, he'd said. And I'd felt like a teenager again, blushing at 62. Who would have thought? I'd come home happy, genuinely, uncomplicatedly happy. The kind of happiness that feels rare as you get older. The kind you learn to treasure. But Claire was waiting. Her car in my driveway. I hadn't expected her. I felt a small flash of annoyance, then guilt for feeling it. Mom! Happy belated birthday! She hugged me at the door. Longer than usual. Tighter. I just wanted to check on you. Make sure you got home safe. From a restaurant 3 miles away? She laughed. A little too bright. A little too quick. You know how I worry. Come on, let me make you some tea. You must be tired after such a big evening out. I was tired. The pleasant exhaustion of a good night. So I let her fuss. Let her bustle around my kitchen. Let her play the devoted daughter. She made chamomile tea, put the kettle on herself, chose the mug, measured the honey, brought it to me where I sat in the living room. Hands wrapped around the warmth. We chatted about her yoga studio, about whether she should hire another instructor, about the class schedules and the parking situation. I might need to make some changes, she said, her voice careful. Calibrated. Money's tighter than we expected. I felt sympathy wash over me. My daughter struggling, my impulse to fix it, to help. I almost offered right then, almost said the words that would have given her everything. Well, I said instead, sipping the tea. These things have a way of working out. Something flickered across her face. Too fast to read. Gone before I could name it. You should get some rest, Mom. She took the empty mug from my hands. You look tired. I did feel tired. Suddenly, overwhelmingly tired. More tired than the evening warranted. My limbs were heavy. My thoughts were starting to swim. Yes, I said. My voice sounded far away. Yes, I think I will. I don't remember going upstairs. Don't remember brushing my teeth. Don't remember getting into bed. The next thing I remember is the bathroom floor. Cold tile against my cheek, my body not responding. My left arm dead weight. My words coming out wrong, slurred, scrambled. Panic. Pure animal panic. The kind that bypasses thought entirely. And Claire's voice, somewhere above me. Mom? Mom! Oh my God, Mom! Her face swimming into view. Phone already in her hand. I need an ambulance. My mother's having a stroke. The hospital is a blur of fluorescent lights. Machines beeping. Strangers touching me, asking questions I couldn't answer. My brain full of cotton. My tongue a foreign object. They ran tests. So many tests. Blood pressure through the roof. Irregularities on the MRI. Signs consistent with a minor ischemic event. A stroke. They told me I'd had a stroke. Morrison was the neurologist. Gray-haired, kind-faced. The type of doctor who probably had photos of his grandchildren on his desk. He seemed puzzled, though. I remember that. Even through the fog, I noticed his confusion. Usually, we see more warning signs, he said. More to himself than to me. Any history of TIAs? Mini strokes? Nothing. I'd been healthy as a horse. Annual physicals. Good cholesterol. Blood pressure textbook normal for years. No family history of stroke. Nothing made sense. But Claire had been prepared with everything. She knew all my medications, had my medical history on her phone, answered questions I was too confused to process. She was a blur of competence, charts and dates and dosages, insurance information, emergency contacts. The hospital staff loved her. Such a devoted daughter, the nurses kept saying, to each other, to me, as if I should be grateful. I was grateful. In those confused, frightening days, I was so grateful to have her. That's the worst part, looking back. The gratitude I felt toward my own poisoner. She moved in the next week. Just temporarily, she said, until I got back on my feet. Until I was strong enough to manage on my own. Derek stayed at their place. I had to keep up with his patients, she explained. But Claire was there every morning. Every single morning. With my pills, a glass of water, that concerned smile. Time for your medication, Mom. Voice like honey, like love. These will help you feel better. I'd swallow them without question. My daughter was taking care of me. Why would I question that? She cooked healthy meals. Bland food, mostly. Good for recovery, she said. Nothing too stimulating. She drove me to follow-up appointments. Sat in the room with me. Took notes on her phone. Asked questions I should have been asking myself. She fielded calls from worried friends. This is where it started. The isolation. So gradual I didn't notice. Like water wearing down stone. Mom's not quite up for visitors yet. I'd hear her say into the phone. Maybe in a few weeks when she's stronger. The first time, I thought nothing of it. I was tired, confused, not myself. The second time, a small voice wondered. The third time, I tried to protest. Susan had called my closest friend from book club. 40 years of friendship. I'd like to talk to her, I said, reaching for the phone. Claire's hand was faster. Mom, you need to rest. Susan understands. Don't you, Susan? Whatever Susan said, Claire smiled at it. Say, she says to focus on getting better. She'll visit when you're stronger. The weeks stretched on. I did get stronger. In some ways, my words came back. The weakness improved. I could walk without holding walls. Use my left hand again, mostly. But Claire seemed to notice problems I didn't feel. She'd mentioned to Derek he came by every evening, regular as clockwork, that I'd repeated myself 3 times, that I'd forgotten where I put my glasses, that I'd called the mailman by the wrong name. Had I? I wasn't sure anymore. Everything felt gauzy, uncertain, like trying to remember a dream. She started keeping a little notebook, pink cover, spiral bound, like something a teenager would use for diary entries. But this wasn't a diary. This was a record. My confusion episodes, logged with dates and times, little check marks, little notes in her neat handwriting. I just want to keep track for the doctor, she'd explain, catching me looking at it. So we can help you better. I'd nod. What else could I do? She was so devoted, so concerned. Everyone said so. The pink notebook filled up. My friends from book club tried to visit in June. All 4 of them, Susan, Margaret, Donna, Beth, 40 years of friendship. They came together, strength in numbers maybe. Worried enough to coordinate, I was upstairs, reading or trying to. Words kept swimming on the page. But I heard voices downstairs, familiar voices. My heart lifted for the first time in weeks. I started to get up, started toward the stairs. But Claire's voice stopped me. Through the floor, clear as a bell. She's napping right now. And honestly, the doctor says she needs her rest. Visitors are overstimulating. Maybe next month. We just want to see her for 5 minutes. That was Susan. Susan, who didn't take no easily. We're worried, Claire. I know you are. Claire's voice was so sweet, so understanding. I'm worried too. That's why I'm making sure she gets what she needs. Rest. Quiet. Recovery time. Trust me. This is what the doctor ordered. A pause. Murmured words I couldn't make out. Then the door closing. 20 minutes later, I came downstairs, wide awake, having heard every word. I thought I heard voices. Claire looked up from her phone. Smooth as glass. Just some solicitors. Nothing important. It sounded like Susan. Mom. She tilted her head. That concerned look. You must have been dreaming. You were asleep just now. Remember? Was I? Had I been? I wasn't sure anymore. You need to focus on recovery, not socializing. She guided me to the couch, handed me a glass of water. Doctor, Morrison agrees. Did he? I wasn't sure about that either. The follow-up appointments had become something else. Something I didn't have words for. Vedgo to doktor. Morrison's office. Claire would drive. I'd sit in the passenger seat, watching the familiar streets slide by, feeling like a passenger in my own life. In the exam room, Claire would talk and talk and talk. She'd list my symptoms, the forgetfulness, the confusion, the personality changes. Morrison would nod, make notes, adjust medications. I'd sit there, observed, discussed, like a specimen, like a patient, not like a person with a voice. How are you feeling, Margaret? Doctor, Morrison would ask, but he'd look at Claire when he said it, as if she could answer better than I could. Often, she did answer. Before I could form words, she's been having more trouble this week, more confusion in the afternoons, some anger, which is concerning. Anga? Was I angry? I didn't feel angry. I felt muted, wrapped in gauze, far away from everything, including myself. Am I having personality changes? I asked Claire. In the car afterward, the question felt important somehow, urgent. She reached over, patted my hand. You're just not yourself, Mom. But that's normal after a stroke. We're managing it. Try not to worry. Try not to worry. In a life where I couldn't see my friends, couldn't answer my own phone, couldn't have a conversation with my doctor alone, try not to worry. Here's what I did know. In the rare moments when I could think clearly, I felt strange. Not stroke strange, but off somehow. Different. Wrong. My sleep was chaotic. Some nights I'd be unconscious for 12 hours. Other nights I'd stare at the ceiling until dawn. No pettin', no sense to it. I'd have periods of sharp clarity, sudden, startling, like breaking the surface of water. For a few hours I'd feel almost normal, think almost normal thoughts. Then it would slide away. Hours where everything felt muffled, distant, like watching my life through frosted glass. My hands shook, not just the left one anymore. Both of them, constant tremor. Worse in the mornings. Worse after medication. I'd find myself staring at objects. A fork, a book, a hairbrush, unable to remember what I'd meant to do with them, how they related to me, why I was holding them at all. And Claire was always there, always watching, always witnessing, always making notes in her pink notebook, always exchanging concerned looks with Derek. She's getting worse. I heard her whisper once, when she thought I was asleep, faster than I expected. Good, Derek whispered back. The faster, the better. I must have dreamed that. Surely I dreamed that. My son-in-law wouldn't say that. About my decline. Good. I must have dreamed it. Hadn't he? It was Tom who first made me suspicious. Really suspicious. Suspicious enough to act on it. He'd been trying to reach me for weeks. But Claire had changed my phone settings. To reduce stress, she'd said. Less noise. Fewer notifications. Better for my recovery. I wasn't getting most of my calls. Texts disappeared before I saw them. Voicemails never appeared. Tom finally showed up at the house. Early July, with flowers. Sunflowers. Because he remembered they were my favorites. Claire met him at the door. I was in the living room, in my usual chair, The one that faced the window. The one, Claire said, was best for the light. I watched through the glass, saw his face, saw the flowers in his hand, saw hope. Claire's body blocked the doorway. Arms crossed, yoga instructor posture, a wall of gentle firmness. I'm sorry, but Margaret's not well enough for visitors. The stress isn't good for her recovery. I'm her friend. Tom's voice rising slightly. Worried. I just want to see if she's okay. Her doctor has advised limited contact during this phase. So smooth. So reasonable. I'm sure you understand. I'd like to hear that from Margaret. Margaret isn't able to make those decisions right now. A pause. Heavy with implication. That's why I'm here. Taking care of her. Tom looked past her. Up at the house? His eyes found the window. Found me. For just a second, our gazes met. His face changed. I saw concern become something else. I saw worry become alarm. I saw a man looking at a woman behind glass, and understanding that the glass wasn't protection. It was a prison. He left, walked back to his car, but he glanced back twice. At the window. At me. Something in that look stayed with me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed. The same bed I'd slept in for 37 years. The bed I'd shared with my husband until he died. Now it felt foreign. Every shadow unfamiliar. I thought about Tom's face, that alarm in his eyes, the way he'd looked at me like I was a hostage. I thought about book club. Susan, Margaret, Donna, Beth. Turned away at my own door. Told I was sleeping when I was wide awake. Told to come back next month. A next month that never came. I thought about the fact that I hadn't spoken to anyone outside this house, except doctors. In 2 months, 2 entire months, my world had shrunk to these walls, to Claire, to Derek, to medical appointments where my daughter spoke for me. The tremor in my hand seemed worse, visible even in the darkness. My thoughts felt sticky, hard to organize, fragments that wouldn't form a whole, but one thought pushed through, clear as sunrise, certain as gravity. This isn't right. I whispered it into the darkness, testing the words, testing my own mind. This isn't right. Something was happening to me. Something beyond a stroke. Something Claire was part of. This isn't right. The next morning, Claire brought my pills. 9 of them, lined up in a little row, white and pink and pale blue. A cocktail she'd assembled? For my health, for my recovery. Time for your medication, Mom. I looked at those pills, looked at my daughter's concerned face, made a decision. Thank you, honey. I took them from her palm, tilted my head back, reached for the water glass, but I didn't swallow. Years ago, decades ago, when Claire was little, I'd learned card tricks, party tricks, make a quarter disappear. Guess your card. Silly things to entertain the kids. You'd be amazed what you can palm, what you can hide. When people aren't looking for deception, I held those pills under my tongue. All 9 of them. Took a sip of water, made swallowing motions. Opened my mouth to show it empty. Claire wasn't checking. Why would she? Confused old mother. Compliant. Grateful for care. Good job, Mom. She took the water glass. I'll bring breakfast in a minute. The moment she left the room, I spat. 9 pills into a tissue, wet with saliva. Evidence. I wrapped the tissue carefully, tucked it into my bra. Against my heart, which was pounding. Because I'd just disobeyed my caretaker. My daughter, the person in charge of my health. What was I doing? Then, 6 hours later, my head was clearer than it had been in weeks. The fog lifted, slowly at first, then festa, like curtains being pulled back, light flooding in. I sat in my chair by the window, the same chair, but the view was different, sharper, more detailed. I could see individual leaves on the trees, individual birds on the branches. The world had edges again. The tremor in my hand had calmed. Still there, but quieter. A whisper instead of a shout. I could think in straight lines, follow a thought from beginning to end. Remember what I'd been doing 5 minutes ago? Remember what I'd been doing that morning? Remember everything. I sat very still, processing, understanding. The pills. The pills Claire was giving me. They weren't helping my recovery. They were causing my symptoms. All of it. The confusion, the fog, the tremors, the memory gaps, the feeling of being far away from myself. All of it was the pills. I wanted to scream, wanted to run, wanted to confront Claire immediately, demand explanations, demand the truth. But I wasn't stupid. Even after months of enforced stupidity, I wasn't stupid. If I confronted her now, what would happen? She'd deny it. Call me paranoid. More evidence of my decline. She's having delusions now, Derek. Thinks I'm trying to hurt her. The persecution complex is a sign of deterioration. I could hear the conversation already. See the concerned looks. The sad heads shaking. Poor Mom. Getting worse. Clearly needs that facility now. I needed to be smart. I needed proof. I needed patience. The next morning, I took my pills. Properly this time. All 9 of them. Swallowed with water. Under Claire's watchful eye. By afternoon, I was dizzy and confused. My words slurring slightly. The world going soft at the edges again. Derek came by that evening. His clinical face in place. That mask of professional concern? How are you feeling today, Margaret? I looked at him. This man I'd welcomed into my family, who'd sat at my holiday table, who'd called me Mom, who was now watching my deterioration like a science experiment. I'm not sure. I let my voice waver. Tired. He and Claire exchanged a look. That look, the one I'd seen 100 times. The one that said, see? She's getting worse. The one that said, right on schedule. Derek made a note in his phone. I watched his fingers move on the screen, documenting, building his case, evidence for the competency hearing, evidence that I needed to be put away. That's very normal, Margaret. His voice was so kind, so gentle. The recovery process has ups and downs. Will I get better? We're hopeful. He and Claire shared another look. This one sadder, more final. But we need to be realistic about expectations. I nodded, let my eyes go unfocused, played the part. That night, I started keeping 2 sets of pills. The system was simple once I figured it out. Every morning, Claire would bring my medication. 9 pills in a row. She'd watch me take them. I'd palm them, pretend to swallow. She'd leave. I'd spit them into tissue, wrap them carefully, add them to my collection. Then I'd take only what Dr. Morrison had actually prescribed, the real medications, the ones I'd verified during one of my moments of clarity, by calling the pharmacy directly. This is Margaret Chen. Can you read me my current prescriptions? The pharmacist had been confused but helpful. Blood pressure medication, a low-dose aspirin, that was all. That was everything, doctor. Morrison had actually ordered everything else. The 5 other pills, the supplements Claire had added, the ones she said were doctor approved. Those were something else entirely. Within 3 days of my new system, I felt like myself again. Not stroke recovery myself, not confused elderly mother self. Actual myself, sharp, clear, suspicious as hell. I started paying attention to everything. To the way Claire angled her body during conversations, always between me and Derek, creating little private conferences, hand gestures, eyebrow raises, a whole language I wasn't supposed to understand, to how she'd started sorting my mail. Before I saw it, to reduce stress, she'd said, but bills went somewhere I never saw. Bank statements vanished. Letters from friends disappeared. To the power of attorney paperwork. That appeared one morning, casual as breakfast. Just something to have on file, Mom. For emergencies? Just in case. The forms were already filled out, just waiting for my signature. My confused, compliant signature. What emergencies? I asked, testing. Oh, you know, Claire waved a hand. If something happened and you couldn't manage things yourself, it's just a precaution. Everyone does it. I'll think about it. Her face flickered. Just for a moment. Frustration breaking through. Then smooth again. Of course, Mom. No rush. But there was a rush, wasn't there? I could feel it. The timeline pressing. The plans being made around me. I started keeping a journal, hidden in a box of old photos in my closet. Under pictures of my wedding, my babies, my grandchildren's first steps, safe beneath decades of memories. Every night, after Claire went to sleep, I'd take out the journal, write down everything. Every observation, every coherent thought, every moment of clarity, every conversation I remembered, every time I'd been denied a visitor, every time my calls had been screened, every time Claire had answered questions meant for me. I noted the pills she gave me versus the pills I actually took. Dates, times, quantities. I wrote down my mental state. Morning, clear. Afternoon, clear. Evening, clear. No confusion, no tremors, no fog. Not since I stopped taking her pills. And I started to wonder about that night, the night of my stroke. May 2nd. The night after my birthday. The night I'd come home happy from dinner with Tom. The night Claire had been waiting with chamomile tea. I'd felt fine before bed. Better than fine. Happy. In love, maybe. At 62, who would have thought? I'd taken my regular medications, the ones I'd been taking for years. Blood pressure, aspirin. Nothing else. But Claire had been there, hadn't she? With her chamomile tea, her concerned smile, her just checking on you. I might need to make some changes, she'd said, about the yoga studio. About money being tight. Money's tighter than we expected. I'd felt so sympathetic. My daughter, struggling. My impulse to help. Then I'd gone to bed. And 8 hours later, my whole life changed. Everything I knew about myself changed. My body betrayed me. Or seemed to. Had it been the tea, the thought seemed paranoid. Even to me. Even now, with clear eyes, this was my daughter, my child, the girl I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose tears I'd dried, whose college essays I'd edited, whose wedding I'd paid for, whose whole life I'd shaped and supported. Claire could be intense, sure. Controlling sometimes. Demanding. The girl who flipped the Monopoly board. The teenager who keyed the bicycle. But this, deliberately causing a stroke, drugging her own mother, to steal her house? Surely not. Surely I was being paranoid. The stress of recovery, the isolation playing tricks. Then I overheard the phone conversation. It was mid-July. I'd been secretly off Claire's pills for almost 2 weeks. My mind was sharp as cut glass. I could think circles around my former confused self. It was late. After midnight, I'd come downstairs for water, moving quietly, an old habit from years of not wanting to wake my husband. Claire was in my study, the door mostly closed, but not latched. A sliver of light. Her voice, low but clear. No, she's definitely declining. I stopped, pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing. Derek's documented everything. A pause, listening. Yes, the confusion, the memory issues, personality changes. Another pause. Doctor, Morrison agrees the trajectory is concerning. My hands were shaking. Not tremors. Rage. Pure crystalline rage. Well, that's why I'm calling. Claire's voice, businesslike now. I think we need to talk about next steps for the house. The house. My house. The house I'd lived in for 37 years. The house where I'd raised her. Where I'd built a life. Where every room held memories. Where I'd planned to die, eventually. In my own bed. In my own home. My house. The market's good right now, Claire continued, oblivious. And honestly, a place like this, in this neighborhood? Pause. I know, but she's going to need care. Professional care. And that's expensive. It only makes sense to. Pause. Right. Exactly. I was thinking we could list it by September. Before things slow down for winter. September. 2 months away? My house on the market. My life packed into boxes. Me. Where? Derek thinks we can get guardianship by August if we need to. Claire's voice dropped lower. I strained to hear. His lawyer friend said with the medical documentation. It should be straightforward. Straightforward. The destruction of my autonomy. The theft of my home. The end of my independence. Straightforward. I stood in the hallway. Glass of water shaking in my hand. Not from tremors. From rage? From grief. From betrayal so deep it felt like drowning. I went back upstairs, so quietly, placed each foot carefully, made no sound, got into bed, stared at the ceiling, counted the beats of my pounding heart. My daughter was planning to have me declared incompetent. Sell my house. Put me in a facility. Pocket the proceeds. Solve her financial problems. With my life, with my home, with everything I'd built, and all of it based on symptoms she'd created. By poisoning me? Day after day. Pile bu pile. Smile by loving smile. The ceiling blurred. Tears streaming down my temples, into my hair, into my pillow. How? How could she? My daughter, my child, my blood. How? That I needed proof. Real proof. Legal proof. Not just a mother's suspicions. Not just paranoid accusations that could be turned against me. The next morning, I acted confused. It was the hardest performance of my life, but I'd had months of practice now. Months of being foggy. Months of being uncertain. I knew exactly how to be Margaret on pills. The hesitation. The vacant stare. The repeated questions. The fumbled words. When Claire brought my medication, I took it with trembling hands. Palmed it. Swallowed water. Opened my mouth to show empty. Just like always. Did I eat breakfast already? I asked, looking at the empty cereal bowl right in front of me, still holding my spoon. Claire's face lit up. Just for a moment. A flash of something that looked almost like satisfaction, then covered with concern. Yes, Mom. About 20 minutes ago. Remember? I didn't look at the bowl, let my eyes wander. Confused? Lost. Oh, right. Uncertain. Hesitant. Exactly what she expected. She made a note on her phone. I wanted to scream, wanted to grab the phone and smash it, smash her careful documentation, her months of lies. Instead, I stared out the window, playing the part, buying time. I started planning. I'd been a corporate paralegal for 30 years before I retired. 30 years of building cases, organizing evidence, understanding what courts needed to see, understanding what convinced. I knew how to do this. If I could just stay clear, stay focused, stay one step ahead of my daughter. I needed 3 things. First, proof of what was in those pills, chemical evidence, toxicology reports, something a doctor or a court couldn't dismiss. Second, proof that I was actually competent. When not being drugged, medical evaluation, cognitive testing, documentation of my real mental state. Third, proof of Claire's intentions. Audio, video, written communications. Something that showed this wasn't caregiving. This was theft. This was abuse. This was attempted murder of who I was. The pills were the easiest piece. I'd been collecting them for 2 weeks, storing them in an old vitamin bottle, in that photo box in my closet, right under my wedding pictures, right under my children's baby photos. The irony wasn't lost on me. Evidence of my daughter's betrayal, hidden beneath evidence of the life I'd given her. I looked up toxicology testing online. During the few hours when Claire ran errands, the yoga studio still needed her occasionally. The life she was trying to save with my house money, there was a lab across town. Private testing? No questions asked. They'd analyze anything you brought them. For a fee, all I needed was a way to get there. With evidence, without Claire knowing. That's where Tom came back into the picture. I managed to get my cell phone. When Claire was in the shower, found Tom's number in the contacts she hadn't deleted. Probably figured I'd forgotten how to use the phone anyway. My hands were shaking as I typed. Not tremors, adrenalina. Need help. Can you meet me at Corner Market Thursday 10 a.m.? Don't tell anyone. I stared at the words. This was it. The moment where I either saved myself or exposed myself. If Tom told someone, if Claire found out, if anyone questioned this sudden contact, it would all fall apart. She'd claim paranoia, delusions, the persecution complex she'd been documenting. She'd accelerate the guardianship, lock me away before I could fight. My thumb hovered over send. Then I thought about the ceiling, the nights spent staring at it. The future Claire was planning for me. A facility? Memory care. My house sold. My life dismantled. Myself erased. I pressed send. His response came back in 30 seconds. I'll be there. I deleted the thread. Cleared the messages. Put the phone back exactly where it had been. Went back to my chair by the window. When Claire came out of the shower, I was staring at nothing. Confused old mother, thinking about nothing. Harmless. Thursday morning. I woke at dawn, watched the light change on my ceiling. Ran through the plan in my head. The pills were in my bra. The vitamin bottle, washed and dried. 12 pills inside. 12 doses of whatever my daughter had been giving me. I'd like to walk to the corner market. At breakfast, voice casual. Just for some fresh air. I feel strong today. Claire looked uncertain. I could see her calculating the risk of letting me go. The benefit of seeming like a reasonable caretaker. The question of how confused I really was. I should come with you. I'm walking 2 blocks, Claire. I let irritation into my voice. Real irritation. I'm 62, not 90. I need to rebuild my independence. I said it sharply. More sharply than I'd spoken in months. She blinked, startled. For a moment, I worried I'd overplayed it. That she'd see clarity behind the frustration. That she'd realize the fog had lifted. But she backed down. Okay, Mom, if you're sure. Just be careful. Okay? Take your phone. I saw her watch from the window as I left, felt her eyes on my back, all the way to the corner. Tom was waiting in the market parking lot, his old Honda, parked in the back, away from the street, where Claire couldn't see from the window, even if she was watching. The relief on his face when he saw me, walking normally, talking clearly, not shuffling, not confused, not the ghost she'd made of me. It could have powered the whole neighborhood. Margaret. Jesus. He got out of the car. What's going on? I look fine because I am fine. I cut him off. No time for emotional reunions. Tom, I need you to take these to a lab. I handed him the vitamin bottle. 12 pills rattling inside. I need to know what's in them, and I need you not to tell anyone you've seen me. He looked at the bottle. At me. back of the bottle. What are these? I'm not sure yet. Deep breath. But I think my daughter has been poisoning me. I watched him process it. The disbelief. Natural, expected. This was his friend, his more than friend, accusing her own daughter of something monstrous. Then the memory. Claire turning him away at the door. Margaret's not well enough for visitors. The woman behind the glass. Trapped and diminished. Then me, standing in front of him. Clear, coherent, sharp as the woman he'd met at the library. The disbelief became something else. Understanding, slowly dawning, terrible and clear. The stroke? He asked quietly. The stroke in May? I don't think I had one. My voice barely above a whisper. Not a real one. Margaret, I know how it sounds. I could feel tears threatening. Pushed them down. Not now. Not here. That's why I need proof. Please. He took the bottle, wrapped his hand around it. Protective. What else do you need? Time. And maybe a lawyer's number? If you know a good one. He nodded slowly. Mind already working? Engineer's brain. Problem solving. My daughter's a civil attorney. Estate law. Beth. She's good. I'll call her. We talked for exactly 8 more minutes. All I dared. Claire might be checking. Might come looking. The concerned daughter worried about her confused mother. We made a plan. Tom would get the pills tested. Contact his daughter. Keep everything quiet until we had results. I'd continue documenting. Continue acting impaired. Continue taking the fake pills and disposing of them. Continue gathering evidence. Be careful, Tom said as I turned to leave, his hand on my arm. Brief. Warm. Real. If you're right about this. If I'm right. My daughter tried to disable me so she could steal my house. I kept my voice steady. Somehow, I'll be careful. You just get me those test results. I walked home slowly, letting my left leg drag slightly, playing the part, the confused old woman, just out for fresh air. Nothing to see here. The test results came back 8 days later, the longest 8 days of my life, each one an eternity of acting, pretending, palming pills, documenting everything, waiting. Mom's daughter came herself, Beth, tall like her father, same determined eyes, same practical competence. She met me at the market. Another, walk for fresh air. Claire was getting suspicious of these walks. I could see it. But not suspicious enough. Not yet. Beth had a folder, documents, lab results, the evidence I needed. She spread them on the hood of her car, far from the street, far from watching eyes. The pills contained a cocktail. Her voice was flat, professional, but I could hear rage underneath. That would make a pharmacist weep. She pointed to the chemical names. Long words I couldn't pronounce. Benzodiazepines. A beta blocker to lower blood pressure dangerously. And something called scopolamine. She looked at me. Do you know what scopolamine does? I shook my head. It causes confusion, memory problems. It's actually called devil's breath in some places. Used for mind control, for robbery, for making people compliant. I felt sick, actually physically sick, bile rising in my throat. The combination would create symptoms that looked neurological, Beth continued. Dizziness, confusion, tremors, slurred speech. The beta blocker would tank your blood pressure, make you faint. Seemed to have a stroke. These aren't stroke medications, she said, looking at me with something between pity and fury. These are medications that would cause stroke-like symptoms. Where did you get these? My daughter's been giving them to me. My voice came out a whisper, calling them supplements, saying their doctor approved. Beth's professional composure cracked. Just for a moment, a flash of horror, of outrage. then controlled again. Your daughter is drugging you to make you appear incompetent? I think she may have caused the original stroke, too. Or what everyone thinks was a stroke. She made me tea that night. Chamomile, she said. Beth closed her eyes, opened them, made a decision. We need to get you out of that house. No? I surprised myself. How firm I sounded. How certain. Not yet. If I leave now, she'll know I'm onto her. She'll destroy evidence. Claim I'm paranoid. Delusional. The confused mother having delusions of persecution. I need more documentation. I need her to show her hand completely. Beth looked like she wanted to argue. Opened her mouth. Closed it. She'd inherited her father's ability to recognize determination when she saw it. Then we do this right. Her voice hardened. Became strategy. I'm going to need you to do some things that won't be comfortable. Over the next 3 weeks, Beth and I built a case. A case that would make a prosecutor jealous. Every piece documented. Every step verified. Nothing left to chance. First, medical proof. I got a second opinion. From a neurologist Beth recommended. Chen. A woman about my age. Sharp eyes. No nonsense. I met her during a walk, supposedly to the library. Getting a book for my recovery, I told Claire. The doctor said reading is good for the brain. Chen ran tests in her private office. Full neurological workup. Cognitive assessment. Brain scan. The results were clear. Literally clear. No evidence of stroke damage. Past or present. No lesions. No scarring. No sign of an ischemic event. Ever. My brain was healthy. Functioning normally. For a woman my age, Chen was baffled. Pulled up my hospital records. Compared them to her findings. These don't match. She looked at me. The hospital saw symptoms consistent with stroke, but there's no structural damage. That's very unusual. What if the symptoms were caused by something else? Something ingested? She went very still. What are you suggesting? I told her. Everything. The tea, the pills. The months of confusion, the clarity when I stopped taking them. She wanted to see Dr. Morrison's records. Wanted to understand how this diagnosis had been made, how no one had questioned it. He trusted my daughter, I said. Everyone trusted my daughter. Second, video evidence. Beth provided a small camera, hidden in an old alarm clock, the kind with a round face. Numbers that flipped, completely innocent looking. I put it in my bedroom, on my nightstand, pointed at the door. Every morning it captured Claire, bringing my pills, voice sweet as honey. Time for your medication, Mom. These will help you feel better. You're doing so well with recovery. Just take these and you'll feel better. Lies. Documented lies. Time-stamped. Irrefutable. Third, audio recordings. My phone, always nearby. Recording app running silently. Capturing everything. Claire talking to Derek about their plans for the house. The realtor said we could get 600 easily. Maybe more if we renovate the kitchen first. We could use some of her money for that, right? Claire calling her real estate agent. Getting a market analysis. Yes, it's my mother's house. She'll be moving to a care facility. We're looking to list by September. Claire, on the phone, with the nursing facility. Yes, we're looking at placement for my mother, probably by September. She's declining. Needs memory care. Do you have availability? I listened to these recordings at night, after Claire was asleep, earbuds in, blankets over my head, listening to my daughter plan my erasure. And I kept taking her pills, palming them, disposing of them, sending samples to Tom, building the toxicology record. Mom, you seem better today, Claire said one morning. Early August. I heard the worry in her voice. Not worry for me. Worry for her plan. If I got better, there was no guardianship, no facility, no house sale, no solution to her problems. Oh, I still feel foggy. I rubbed my eyes, let my hand shake, but I'm trying to push through. She relaxed, visibly, shoulders dropping. She brought me an extra pill that afternoon. This should help with the afternoon confusion, she said. I took it, held it under my tongue, spat it out later. Sent it to Tom. The lab report came back. Stronger dose. Same cocktail. She was increasing the dosage, accelerating my decline, making sure I was ready for September. By mid-August, I had everything. Medical proof I was competent. Toxicology reports on 30 different pills. Video of Claire administering them. Audio of her discussing the house sale. Audio of her arranging for a nursing facility. A second neurologist's opinion that I'd never had a stroke at all. Everything. Months of evidence. Carefully gathered. Meticulously documented. Legally admissible. I was ready. And then Derek made the mistake. That handed me the final piece. He came by on a Friday evening, dressed more formally than usual, shirt tucked in, like he was going to an important meeting, which I suppose he was. He sat down across from me, that clinical expression locked in place. The mask he wore with his patients, the mask he now wore with me. Margaret, Claire, and I have been talking with Dr. Morrison. We're all concerned about your trajectory. Trajectory. Like I was a missile. A problem on a graph. Not a person. Not his mother-in-law. The confusion episodes are increasing, and we think it might be time. Pause. Meaningful. Practiced. To consider a care facility where you can get professional support. I kept my voice small. Uncertain. The voice they expected. You see, we found a wonderful place. His voice was so gentle, so professionally compassionate, so completely false. Very kind staff, nice rooms. They specialize in memory care. Memory care. For a woman with no memory problems. Except the ones they'd created. I don't want to leave my house. I know this is hard. He leaned forward, touched my hand. His skin was cool. Dry? Reptilian. But Claire can't keep caring for you indefinitely. And honestly, selling the house would fund your care. The market's very good right now. Honestly. The words meant nothing in his mouth. When? I whispered. We're thinking end of September. That gives us time to transition you gradually. Get the house ready to list. 2 months. 2 months to dismantle my entire life. To sell everything I owned. To put me in a home. To erase me. And if I say no, his expression flickered. Just for a moment. Calculation replacing sympathy. Cold assessment of an obstacle. Margaret, Dr. Morrison has documented significant cognitive decline. His voice was still gentle, but the words were not. If necessary, we can pursue guardianship to make sure you get the care you need. There it was. The threat, dressed up as concern, the velvet glove pulled back. Just far enough to show the iron underneath. I see, I said again. Looked down at my hands. They were trembling. Not from pills, not from fear, from rage. Rage I was barely containing. Rage that wanted to explode, to scream, to grab him by the throat and demand to know how he could do this, how they could do this to someone who had loved them. But I stayed still, stayed quiet, played the part. Can I think about it? Of course. He stood, smoothed his shirt. Take the weekend. But Margaret, he leaned down, close to my face. His breath smelled like coffee, like the everyday normal of a man who was planning to steal my life. This is really what's best for everyone. Best for everyone. By which he meant best for him and Claire, who'd have my house to sell, my accounts to access, my life to package up and dispose of. I nodded. Smiled weakly. Confused old mother. Considering her options, that night, after Derek left, after Claire went to bed, after the house was dark and silent, I called Beth. I'm ready to move. Monday morning. Are you sure? They're planning to put me in a facility by September. Derek all but threatened guardianship tonight. I'm done playing victim. Silence on the line. Then Beth's voice, stronger. Ready. Monday morning. I'll have everything in place. Monday morning arrived. Clear and bright. The last day of my captivity, Claire brought my pills. 9 of them. Lined up like little soldiers. I took them as usual. Palmed them as usual. Smiled weakly as usual. Acted foggy through breakfast. Let my hands shake. Asked if I'd already eaten. Forgot where I put my glasses. The whole performance. Claire left at 9:30 for yoga class, the studio she was probably planning to save. With my house money, I watched her car pull out of the driveway. Watched it turn the corner. Watched it disappear. Then I picked up my phone. Texted one word. Now, within 5 minutes, 3 things happened at once. Tom pulled up in his car. Back of the driveway, ready for a quick exit. Beth arrived with Dr. Chen and a notary. A woman named Carol. Efficient, professional, ready to witness. And I started packing. Not everything, just essentials. Clothes, medications. My journal, the photo box with all my evidence, the alarm clock with its hidden camera. Everything else could wait. This was about speed, about getting out, about becoming myself again. Chen examined me in my living room. Full neurological check. Right there. Right then. Follow my finger. Squeeze my hands. Tell me what day it is. Count backward from 100 by sevens. I passed everything. Every test. Every check. Perfectly normal. Perfectly competent. Perfectly myself. She signed an affidavit. Right there at my kitchen table. Stating I was fully competent. Showed no signs of stroke damage. Was capable of making my own decisions. Was not in need of guardianship or institutional care. Carol notarized it. Official seal. Legal weight. Beth had me sign new document. A new power of attorney, naming Tom and Beth as agents, revoking any previous documents, revoking anything Claire had tried to arrange. A statement describing everything. The pills, the isolation, the conversations overheard, the threats, months of abuse, documented and sworn. Tom helped me pack, while Beth photographed the pill bottles, still sitting in the kitchen where Claire kept them. All 5 of the fake supplements, lined up and labeled, for Mom's recovery. She photographed the pink notebook, too. Claire's log of my confusion episodes. Page after page, dates and times, check marks, notes. A meticulous record of symptoms she'd created. Everything documented, everything preserved. Evidence for what was coming. Where will you go? Dr. Chen asked. As we finished, my sister's place, next county over. Just for a few days, until we're ready. Ready for what? Beth smiled. That determined smile. Her father's smile. Ready to make sure this never happens to anyone else. We were gone by 11. I left a note on the kitchen counter. Short. Vague. Buying time. Claire staying with friends for a few days. Need some space to think. Mom. Let her think I was confused. Wandering. Having one of my episodes. Let her panic. Claire called my phone 40 times that afternoon. I watched the notifications pile up. Didn't answer. Derek called. I didn't answer. Her messages got increasingly frantic. Mom, where are you? Mom, please pick up. Mom, I'm worried sick. Mom, you're not well enough to be alone. The worry in her voice. It would have fooled me. Once. Before. Now I heard what was underneath. Fear. Not fear for me. fear of losing control, fear of the plan falling apart, fear of what I might be doing. Out there, free. They showed up at my sister Linda's house on Wednesday. Linda lived 2 counties over. Wrong direction. They found nothing. Thursday, they filed a missing person report. Concerned family members. Confused elderly mother. Possibly having a mental health crisis. Possibly a danger to herself. The police took the report, filed it, started looking. They didn't find me because by Thursday, Beth had filed a counter report. On my behalf, elder abuse, fraud, attempted theft, assault with intent to cause bodily harm. The police found that much more interesting Friday morning. The meeting I'd been dreaming about, the moment I'd been planning for, the confrontation that would end this, Morrison's office. I'd requested a consultation to discuss my care plan. Claire had jumped at the chance to attend. She thought I was giving in, accepting the inevitable, ready to sign whatever papers she put in front of me. The confused mother, finally compliant. Finally ready to be managed. Finally ready to disappear. She walked into that office with Derek, both wearing their concerned family member faces. Professional worry. Practiced sympathy. They found me sitting at the conference table with Beth, my attorney, poised and ready, with Dr. Chen, the neurologist who'd proved I was healthy, who'd documented Claire's fraud, with Detective Garcia from the Elder Abuse Unit, badge visible, expression serious. I will never forget the look on Claire's face, the shock first. Raf, unguarded, the daughter seeing her confused mother sitting sharp-eyed and smiling. Then the calculation, rapid, desperate, trying to figure out what had happened, what I knew, what could be salvaged. Then fear, real fear, as she took in the detective, the attorney, the second doctor, and understood. This wasn't a care plan discussion. This was an ambush. Hi, honey. I said it clearly, steadily. A woman in complete control. Glad you could make it. We have so much to discuss. Detective Garcia laid out the evidence. All of it. Systematically. Relentlessly. The pills. 12 samples. All analyzed. All containing the same dangerous cocktail. The toxicology reports. Chemical analysis. Expert interpretations. Documentation of exactly what Claire had been feeding me. The videos. Claire bringing me medication. Time for your pills, Mom. These will help you feel better. Her voice so sweet. Her intentions so murderous. The audio recordings. Claire discussing the house sale. Claire arranging the nursing home placement. Claire and Derek talking about guardianship. By August, if we need to. Chen presented her examination findings. No stroke. Never any stroke. Perfectly competent 62-year-old woman. No need for guardianship. No need for institutional care. No cognitive decline whatsoever. Morrison looked like he wanted to disappear. Through the floor. Through the wall. Through time itself. He'd made the original stroke diagnosis. Based on Claire's report. Based on the hospital's tests. Tests that showed exactly what you'd expect. If someone had been dosed with scopolamine and beta blockers and benzodiazepines on the night of their birthday by their own daughter. I want to be very clear. Morrison's voice shook. Just slightly. You told me she was having these symptoms at home, he pointed at Claire. You brought her to follow-ups reporting cognitive decline. You said... She was confused. Claire's voice went high. Desperate. A cornered animal. She couldn't remember things. She was slurring her words. Because you were poisoning her. Beth cut in. Calm. Clear. Devastating. We have video of you administering pills. Pills, you told her, were supplements. Pills you said were doctor approved. We have toxicology reports showing those pills contained medications. That would cause exactly the symptoms you reported. We have recordings of you discussing selling her house, having her committed, pursuing guardianship. This is insane. Claire turned to me, desperation raw on her face. Mom, tell them. You know I was just trying to help you. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, saw the girl who flipped the Monopoly board, the teenager who keyed the bicycle, the woman who'd married for stability, and when that crumbled, had turned on her own mother, saw the desperation, the anger underneath the panic. She'd come so close, so very close. Another month, maybe 2, and I would have been in memory care. My house on the market, my accounts in her control, my life erased. Another month, and she would have won. Claire, I said it quietly. You gave me tea the night I had my stroke. Chamomile, you said. Pausa. What was really in it? Chamomile. Her voice cracked. Just chamomile. Mom, you're confused? They're confusing you. I'm not confused anymore. I held her gaze. Steady. Clear. Funny how that happened. When I stopped taking the pills you gave me, Derek stood up, face closed. Professional mask slamming back into place. We're not saying anything else without a lawyer. Excellent idea. Detective Garcia stood too. You'll need one. Here's what I learned in the weeks that followed. Claire and Derek were in worse trouble than anyone knew. Much worse. The kind of trouble that makes people desperate. Desperate enough to hurt the people who loved them. Derek's practice wasn't just having insurance problems. He'd been faking credentials, the degree from Stanford, the certification in cognitive behavioral therapy, the specialized training he advertised. None of it was real. He'd bought the credentials online, forged documents, a house of cards. And the insurance companies had started looking, auditing, asking questions. He was looking at losing his license. Fraude charge. Criminal prosecution. Financial ruin. They needed money. Fast. A lot of it, my house would have solved everything. Worth almost $600,000. Paid off completely. Years of equity. Decades of savings. The plan had been elegant in its cruelty. Create a medical crisis. The tea with its hidden drugs. The stroke that wasn't. Rush to the hospital. Let the doctors make the diagnosis. Let Claire establish herself as the devoted daughter. Then spend months making sure I stayed impaired. Drugged. Document it. Declining. Get guardianship. Control the assets. Sell the house for mom's care. Pocket the difference. After installing me in the cheapest facility they could find, the chamomile tea that night, it had contained massive doses. Blood pressure medication, enough to crash my system, make me dizzy, make me fall, make me slur, and scopolamine, the devil's breath, to confuse me, disorient me, make me seem like a stroke victim. If I'd been a little older, a little less sharp, a little more trusting, if my paralegal training hadn't taught me to document, if Tom hadn't looked at me through that window, if one thing had been different, it would have worked. The criminal case took 8 months. Hearings, depositions, evidence reviews, more evidence reviews. Claire and Derek hired separate lawyers, started pointing fingers at each other. He said she planned everything. She said he provided the drugs. They both said the other was in charge. The prosecutors loved that. Claire pleaded guilty in the end. Elder abuse, fraud, assault, reduced charges. In exchange for cooperation, she cried on the stand. Talked about the pressure, the financial stress. How she never meant to hurt me. How she thought the pills would just calm me down, make me more manageable. For my own good, I watched from the gallery, listened to her sob, listened to her explain, listened to her apologize. I felt nothing. That's not true. I felt something, a kind of cold clarity. The final understanding that my daughter was a stranger, had always been a stranger, someone I'd loved. Without ever knowing, Derek got separate charges for his credential fraud, for his role in my poisoning, for the months of documentation, his clinical observations of my decline, all designed to support the guardianship case. He lost his license. What there was of it. The fake license for the fake credentials. Gone. They both got probation. The prosecutor apologized to me about that. Said my competence actually worked against us. Made it seem like less serious harm. Since I'd figured it out, since I'd saved myself, I told her I understood. I didn't. But what could I do? The probation terms were strict. No contact with me. Supervised visitation only with their kids. Full restitution. Legal fees. Medical costs. The emotional distress damages a civil court awarded later. Years of payments. The money they'd tried to steal, coming back to me. Dollar be dollar. The house they'd planned to sell, I did sell it. Eventually, 6 months after the trial ended. Too many memories in those walls. In that kitchen, where Claire had made poisoned tea. In that bathroom, where I'd woken up that terrible morning. In my bedroom, where she'd brought me pills. Every single day, smiling. These will help you feel better, Mom. I couldn't live there anymore. Couldn't walk those halls. Couldn't look at that stove. That teacup. That chair by the window, where I'd been a prisoner in plain sight. I sold it for top dollar. Summer market. Bidding war. More than Claire ever thought it was worth. The irony wasn't lost on me. I bought a condo near my sister Linda. 2 bedrooms. Nice view. Close to family who actually cared about me. It's smaller. Simpler. Mine. Completely mine. No one else's. I have coffee on the balcony every morning. Watch the sunrise. Feel the warmth. Take my own medications. From my own cabinet. Pills I chose. Doctors I chose. A life I control. The money Claire had been so desperate for. Set up a trust. For my grandchildren, Claire's kids, Jessica and Michael, the innocent ones in all this. They'll get it when they turn 25, managed by trustees, who aren't their parents. Claire hates this, I'm told, by people who still talk to both of us. She hates that she's close to money she can't touch. Hates that her children will benefit. From the grandmother she tried to destroy. I think that's appropriate. The universe balancing itself, something good coming from something terrible. Those kids didn't poison me. Didn't scheme to steal my house. Didn't drug me for months. Didn't try to erase me. They're teenagers now. Old enough to understand some of what happened. They've started reaching out. Careful emails. Supervised phone calls. Wanting to know me. The real me. Not the declining, confused version their mother described. I meet them for lunch sometimes, with a social worker present, because that's what the court ordered. Because Claire can't be trusted, but the lunches are good. Jessica has my eyes. Michael has my laugh. They're not their mother. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I hope. Morrison retired. 6 months after the case settled, he'd trusted a daughter's reports about her mother. Without verifying, without questioning, without once thinking to ask me directly, in a room alone. Without Claire present, how are you really feeling? It broke something in him. I think the realization of what he'd almost enabled, the near destruction of a woman's life. Under his medical authority, last I heard he was doing volunteer work at a free clinic, somewhere far from here. I don't blame him. Not entirely. Claire was convincing. The symptoms were real. The drugs created exactly what they were designed to create. But I think about all the other daughters, the other sons, the other devoted caretakers, who might be less convincing, or more. I think about all the other mothers, fathers, grandparents who might not figure it out, might not have a Tom looking through the window, might not know how to build a case. That's what keeps me up sometimes. Not my own story. The stories I'll never hear. Tom and I are still dating. Turns out being rescued from your own daughter's murder plot is quite the foundation for a relationship. He was there through all of it. The case, the trial, the selling of the house, the nightmares that came after. When my body finally felt safe enough to process what had almost happened, he held me through the worst of it. When I couldn't sleep, when I couldn't stop shaking, when the rage came, in waves so big I thought I'd drown. He's patient, steady. The water to my fire, that I thought Claire had found in Derek, but really found in this quiet engineer with his Honda and his sunflowers. We just got back from a cruise. Alaska, glaciers and whales and endless blue water, something I paid for with my own money, from my own accounts, that nobody controls but me. I'm 64 now, 2 years since the night of the tea, 2 years since I woke up on that bathroom floor, 2 years since my life became a battleground. I take exactly 3 medications, prescribed by a doctor I chose. Oh, Kung Fu, a woman who meets with me alone, who asks me directly, who trusts my answers. I pick up my prescriptions myself, from a pharmacy I can see clearly, stored in a cabinet I alone access. I sleep soundly. Most nights, my hands don't shake, unless I've had too much coffee. My mind is sharp as it ever was, sharper maybe, honed by survival. And I've started volunteering at the senior center downtown, teaching a class. Know your rights. We talk about powers of attorney, about medical autonomy, about the signs of elder abuse. We talk about isolation tactics, how abusers cut off contact. She's not well enough for visitors. The doctor says she needs rest. How they become the only voice you hear, the only lens through which you see yourself. We talk about financial exploitation, the questions about money, the pressure to simplify, the power of attorney documents, waiting for confused signatures. We talk about trusting yourself, even when everyone says you're wrong, even when the people who should love you are telling you you're broken. I tell them my story. Sometimes, the ones who need to hear it. I tell them about the chamomile tea, the months of fog, the moment of clarity, the pill I palmed and didn't swallow. I tell them about Tom's face through the window, about Beth and the lab reports, about the camera in the alarm clock, about the meeting in Dr. Morrison's office. I tell them it's not paranoia. If someone is actually trying to hurt you, and I tell them this, what I learned, what I carry now, the most dangerous betrayals come wrapped in love. They sound like concern. I just want what's best for you. They look like care. Let me help you with that. They say, I'm only trying to help you while stealing your life. One pill at a time, one confusion episode at a time, one blocked visitor at a time. The person who seems most devoted might be the one you need to watch most carefully. But here's what else I learned. Here's what I tell them. When they're scared, when they're doubting themselves, when they wonder if they're imagining things, you're never too old to save yourself. At 62, I broke free of a prison, made of my own home, guarded by my own daughter, never too trusting to start questioning. I believed Claire for months, took her pills without question, trusted her concern, until I couldn't anymore, until the questions became louder than the trust. Never too far gone to find your way back. The fog lifted, the pills stopped, the clarity returned. I rebuilt myself from the ground up at 62. If you can breathe, you can fight. If you can think one clear thought, you can think two. If you survive today, You can survive tomorrow and the day after that. So if you're out there wondering if you're imagining things, whether that devoted child or spouse or caregiver really has your best interests at heart, listen to that small voice, the one asking questions, the one noticing patterns, the one that says, "This isn't right." Document everything, dates, times, conversation. Write it down. Hide it somewhere safe. Build your case. Even if you never need it, trust yourself, your mind, your instincts, your right to control your own life. No matter what anyone tells you, no matter how confused they say you are, no matter how devoted they seem, and know that somewhere out there, there's a 64-year-old woman who took her life back from people who tried to steal it, who built evidence in secret, palmed pils, played confused, and waited until the time was right to stop being a victim and start being a survivor. I'm living proof that it's never too late, that you can save yourself, that the devoted daughter doesn't always win. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 64 years old, and nobody will ever tell me who I am. Again,